Hi everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about Ivion, the Knight and the Lady. This is designed by Aslan Hall, Aaron Shaw. There are 9 different artists attributed to this, so I would check that out on Board Game Geek. And it is published by Luminary Games and Ape.
Guys, this is kind of a hero crafting system. So basically, it's a one-on-one, 2-player combat game. But it's much more than that. You have the chance to, in between games, modify your characters, make them stronger, make them more tailored to your strategies and your preferred play styles. Let me give you an overview of how to play. Alright, here's our setup for Ivion. On the board, on the opposite corners, we have our 2 characters. They're going to be fighting it out, trying to take each other's health down. Speaking of health, we've got our health trackers right here. They do flip over. Once you finish one, you go to the other side. It makes sure it shows that you are at half health. Each character also has a little section here where you can keep all of your different resources that you've gathered. And then you're also going to have 3 abilities, 3 skills that you're going to have in front of you to start the game off with. Those are things that you can use once per turn to kind of help you along. You don't have to use cards from your hand to activate those. We're also going to have some helper cards. This is kind of a turn order track card to kind of help us keep on track. But then also, this particular character has to do a lot with things like chivalry and relics. So on this card, there's some information about chivalry and relics, so you can reference that, and you can kind of know exactly what's going on without having to reference the rule book. You're going to start the game with a hand of 5 cards, but then at the beginning of every turn, you're going to be able to draw an additional card. Plus, you're going to gain 1 initiative token, and you're also going to gain 3 action tokens that you can use in that turn. Now, you can hold some of those back. However, the initiative token, that gets expired every turn, so you do want to make sure you use that. You can use that to either move around or to draw a card. You can also use the action tokens to draw cards and move around, but you also want to be able to save some of those back in order to use them to pay for your cards in order to do some of your really cool abilities. Each one of the cards in your deck is going to work a little bit differently, but let me kind of give you an overview of how these cards work. Alright, so basically at the top here, we have what our costs are. We've got our cost and power. This one's going to cost us 2. Sometimes you have to cost and power as well. In this case, it's actually a plus sign, so it's actually going to gain you some of that power. There's also a range here in the green, whether you have to be 1 square away or 2 squares away, or whatever the case is, that's going to be over here in that green circle. So sometimes you have a pay of power and actions. Sometimes you actually gain power or actions based off how powerful the card is. Here's going to tell you what it does. In this case, it's attack. It does 5 damage to a target enemy. Again, it has to be 1 distance away, though. Also, you can just slow them down 3 times. There are 3 kinds of control tokens that you can give to your opponents. That basically means they can't do certain things. In this case, slowing them down means that they can't move until I've gotten rid of those tokens. Also, along the left side of the card here, it shows what can be blocked by those different control things. So, for instance, if we had this sword control on us over here, we would not have been able to play this card if we had those red tokens on us. And now, if they've got a card that has one of those green tokens on it on the side, they would not be able to play it until they've removed all their slow tokens. So that's kind of how a card works. Each one is a little bit different. It's going to be able to kind of move you around the board, help you attack, gain some resources, those kinds of things. We've got all our tokens over here. You can see we've got our 3 different kinds of control. We also have our actions and our power tokens, our initiative, and we also have our Enchanted Terrain. Enchanted Terrain means that you can place a token on the board. So it's actually on the board there. When someone moves into that Enchanted Terrain, they're actually going to remove that token and gain a power. And a lot of the cards, especially having to do with the Enchantress, are going to have to do with having Enchanted Terrain. So basically, you want to place those out as often as you can, and then our card might say something like, remove one of those Enchanted Terrains and deal 4 damage to a character who is adjacent to it, or whatever the case is. So once you've played the game a few times, you are ready to kind of craft your own hero. So you need to have a class of hero, and you can have up to 2 classes for each deck. So you can combine different things from different boxes or from different scenarios in order to make your own custom character. You also need 1 specialization as well. You're going to add up, this should be about 45 cards, and you need 3 cards to kind of match those specializations in order to be able to play them. The basic game does come with a whole lot of extra cards that you can use in order to kind of customize your own deck, but really what you want to do is you want to build your own thing. So basically, this game already tells you ahead of time, this is what the starting deck came with. This is your intro deck. It tells you what to put in that deck, and it kind of tells you some strategies about how to use it, a little bit of lore there, but also gives you some extra cards as well. If you want to try this character, Young Siada, I'm probably saying that wrong, here's the cards you should put in your deck, and you know what, here's a little bit of story about them, and how to use that deck properly to the maximum benefit. So if you're not comfortable making your own heroes, you still get a chance to kind of build your own decks based off of these hero cards that they give you. The goal ultimately is in order to bring your opponent's health down to 0. The first player that is able to do so is going to be declared the winner.
I really liked the layout of this board, right? So not just like the little spaces and all of that, but the health trackers. I like that they were double-sided, and even if you played the night card that had to do with one of your passive abilities, it only happened whenever you're able to flip that over. But the reason why I like that is because sometimes in games like this, you have all of your components like in like a pile in front of you, and sometimes it's kind of hard to see what the other person is doing, or you have a health tracker and you have to keep asking like, what are you at, where are you at? But I really like that it had those in the middle of the board where everybody could see, and the fact that they had a very obvious area in front of you where you're putting all of your stuff. So it was just, it was easy to see what was happening with your opponent. It was easy to see what they had. There was no confusion about that. And it was such a little thing because they could have made the board bigger with the spaces, but to add this little section on the sides for the player chits and to add those sections on the sides for our health tracker, I really liked that.
I like the hero crafting in this game. The ability to modify your decks and change your decks is really, really cool. If you're someone who's played maybe Magic the Gathering or some other kind of those LCGs or CCGs, that might seem familiar to you. And so I really like being able to customize your abilities in between each game. But also, if it stresses you out for some reason, it comes with, a starting setup. It just gives you, here's a deck that's got everything you need, go fight. But then on top of that, it gives you even more characters. It gives you these character cards that basically show you, here's what we recommend you put in your game if you want to play with this character's setup. And it gives you kind of this nuanced strategies, specifically for that particular character. On the backside, it tells you a little bit of lore and a little bit of, flavor text, along with, here's how to play this character. This card and this card work together really, really well. If you can get them out early, that's going to be beneficial to you, or whatever the case is. So even if the hero crafting thing stresses you out, fret not, because there is still ways to customize your deck just based off reading those character cards. It gives you some kind of pre-built decks to help you out battle somebody else.
I found this game was incredibly well balanced, even after like the first game where we're playing with the introductory cards, and then our subsequent plays where we're just adding new cards and playing the other character. We were always within a turn of the other person winning. So if I won, there was a really good chance that Ryan would have won the next turn. And that's just how it worked out every single time we played. We were really close. Both of our health trackers were right there. Even when somebody had like a big, like huge turn where they took a lot of your health away, right? Like it evened out eventually. So I thought that the game was incredibly balanced.
There was a ton packed in this little box. I mean, there's so much different gameplay between the different decks that you can play, the different customization that you can do. On top of that, you can buy multiple boxes. There are 3 different versions of the game. They're all interlinked and combined, and can be combined in different ways. So you can have up to 2 classes at a time. And within each one of those classes, there's different specializations. And so you can pull from all these different boxes, kind of making it an even more custom character with even more options. The more boxes you get, the more you're going to be able to play with. But however, even by itself, there's plenty of this game to play with and have a lot of fun with.
So overall, even though this isn't my style of game, right, I don't gravitate toward games like this. It's not something that like jumps out to me. I was still able to enjoy myself. So it was still engaging, and I still was able to like it and have fun playing it, even though it's not my style. So I thought they did a really good job with this to be able to engage somebody who doesn't gravitate towards these games.
Yeah, this game was very easy to set up, especially the first time through. In between games with you modifying your deck, that changes the setup per se. But the actual gameplay setup is very smooth. The gameplay, while you're playing it, everything's very clear what you can do in your turn. You have your income phases, you have your fighting, and then you have your cleanup at the end. You have all that stuff is very, very clear. There's even little player aids as well. I think this is going to be a game that you're really going to enjoy, especially if you're familiar with a game, let's say, like we talked about Magic the Gathering or one of those other kind of CCGs or LCGs. Also, if since there's a board involved, that's kind of a unique aspect to pair with one of those things. So maybe if you're familiar with a game, let's say Summoner Wars, this is a game that I think if you like any of those things that I mentioned, this is kind of a combination of all of them in a way that I think you're going to really like.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can follow us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.